Welcome to March. Happy spring. My allergies have been reacting. I don't know if anyone else's has, but I'm glad that there is warmer weather. There is a ton of information in this meeting. So if you want to stop us as we go through and make a comment or ask a question, you don't have to hold everything into the end. If we end a little bit early, we'll just hop right into the formula continuation guidance. And then anybody who that doesn't pertain to can hop off. So let me just start. Is Crystal on the call? No, okay. She's our new communications person and she wasn't able to join us in January, so I just wanted her to introduce herself. But hopefully a lot of you have met her in your one-on-one meetings. But let's just get our agenda for today is just welcome and a couple updates. Alex is going to talk about Hill Day. That was a really success. That was a couple weeks ago. He's going to give some training updates, talk about the summit. Sasha's going to talk about the member survey, which typically comes out in May. Max will go through some fiscal updates and reminders, and then we'll have final thoughts. Okay. So there's a lot of information in here. So like I said, please ask questions as we go. This is a summary of what's happening as we speak. The NOFO came out, the Notice of Funding Opportunity from the federal agency came out for the competitive, which gives us guidance for formula at the end of January. As of yesterday, our competitive applicants submitted to eGrants, and so the commission is in review of those applications, just as an update. We're going to review them the end of this week. They are due to the agency by March 27th, but we want to get them in because eGrants, we know, is a terrible system. Might have some, hiccups. So we want to submit them by next Friday. So there might be some information in there that we ask you to change or some budgetary items that we ask to be clarified. So the two competitive applicants, you know who you are, just look out for emails from me or Max in the next week or so. For formula continuations, we're going to go over that information today. I sent out some guidance a couple weeks ago. Interesting turn of events, and we can talk about this during our call. AmeriCorps is awarding us our full formula amount on our prime, and they are doing that as of April 1st. So we're not doing it like we have done in the past, where we submit a portfolio and then they give us the formula. They are giving it to us up front, and then we are doing the awards throughout the summer. So that means that the NOGA will be quicker than it has normally been given to us. But that creates some complications in eGrants, which means that we can't accept applications until that formula amount is awarded. So right now we have all the applications for formula due next Wednesday, and we're going to have to push that back because we have to submit the prime to AmeriCorps in order to be awarded the formula amount, and then we can accept applications and fund them. So it's just a matter of mechanics and eGrants, but we can talk about that during the call. So the negotiations are going to take place in May. We are going to be soon in an open competition. So we're going to be accepting new applications through the formula process. And so that's the third column here. We worked with procurement last week, Max and I, and the formula RFA for new and recompetes is slated to come out April 9th. We're hoping, honestly, that's a little bit sooner, just so we can get everyone on the same schedule and maybe do negotiations all at once because we have a fixed amount of money. But we are only going to have it out for 10 days. So whatever that might look like, if it's 4/9, if it's a week before, we're only going to have it out for 10 days. We usually have it out for 30 days, but we just don't have that kind of time right now. So the latest it's going to be due as of today will be 4/20. Then it still has to go through an evaluation panel. This is for new and recompetes, and hopefully you know who you are on the call. And then we're going to do negotiations in mid-May, first week of May, hopefully, depending on how many applications we have, and then in award and eGrants by mid-June, which means that hopefully new and recompetes will be able to start by September 1st. Because we will already have the money on the prime in order to award, and then it just has to be certified by AmeriCorps. So I know that's a lot of information. Obviously, we'll send out these slides and we'll talk more. And you can always ask me or your program officer or Max questions about who you are, where you stand within these three, scenarios, and communicate with us during the process. There's no dumb questions, honestly. It gets a little complicated. I'm going to move on. I just wanted to give a shout out to America Service Commissions who are having their national service training in Dallas. Max and I will be there April 14th to the 16th. So if you guys are there, please let us know. We'd love to meet up or at least say hi. There's also a virtual opportunity. A lot of our staff are doing that. So registration for either of those opportunities, the Dallas training or the virtual training, closes this week. So if you have money in your budget that you're interested in spending on training, staff training, I would get that information, or I would register as soon as possible. Okay. Okay. So this is not the fun part, and these slides are not very nice looking, but it's just blanket information. So recently, AmeriCorps sent us an email that they are going through renovations. Don't necessarily know what that term means to them, but essentially they are changing the way they operate in some ways. So we have not received official guidance from them, although some of these renovations will directly impact organizations on this call. We don't necessarily know the full breadth of like how they will interact with what you do on the ground. But we're here as partners and obviously as your grantor to make sure it's a smooth transition. So ASN is going to be sending us guidance in the next couple weeks or so. We will look at that guidance. We'll say, how does that apply to Virginia? And then we'll send it off to you. So moving forward for FY26, the agency is going to be using the term volunteer instead of member, which, you can have your own opinion about what that means. I think it's they're just interested in the general public being able to understand more about what AmeriCorps does. I know that there's tons of information, the terms and conditions, our handbook, your materials that have the word member all over them. So it's like we'll discuss kind of what that looks like. 6 to 9 month enrollment periods. Currently, every grant has a year budget period within a 3-year prime and a year enrollment period. AmeriCorps in FY26 moving forward is going to take those enrollment periods down to 6 months or 9 months. And then we have 2 fixed grants, and this applies to both of them. There are changes in the drawdown. So the commission for the first part, I'm just going to go through the 3 of those. There's a couple more, but they don't necessarily apply to you guys immediately. The commission plus AmeriCorps is going to work on a phased approach. Like I just mentioned, there's like so many materials that say member. It's in our, lexicon that we're constantly saying member. And so this is kind of a change in culture, a change in guidance, a change in verbiage that we use in our materials. But it's not going to all happen at once. I used this example in our staff meeting the other day. When AmeriCorps went through their branding, redoing their branding, they said that we had to immediately use all of their color schemes, their new logo, use AmeriCorps and not the different types of service that, are encompassed in that. But with this, they're working on a phased approach. So it might be confusing over the next, few months to a year, I'm sure, because when we talk about member management, well, we're gonna say volunteer management, but that might mean something completely different to a nonprofit like you all who are on the call versus what we mean when we're talking about AmeriCorps volunteers. So that might be the commonality. We say AmeriCorps volunteers instead of volunteers. I don't know. We don't know what that looks like yet, but that's going to be coming down. Okay, this one will impact a lot of you. So like I said, we have currently 12-month enrollment periods. AmeriCorps is going to be changing that to 6-month enrollment periods. So that means that if you have a full-time program or a program with full-time and half-time members, your enrollment period can only be 6 months. So our programs typically start in September 1. So you would only be allowed or, able really in e-grants to enroll members from September 1 to, I think, the end of February, whatever that 6-month period looks like. So you would not be able to enroll members past the 6 months. There is a caveat though, that programs with 60% or more of less than half-time slots. So if you have quarter time, if you have minimum time, you're limited to a 9-month enrollment period. So you do have a little bit longer, but it's still not 12 months. There's no waiver to this. So it is what it is. Exactly. That's what they're saying. And then they're going to take effect in FY26, so starting September 1st. We understand completely that this is going to have effects on everyone's program, especially people who are interested in having summer programs, right? Who might have full-time or three-quarter time staff, or excuse me, members, volunteers, right? Start in September. And then they want folks to start in June or July. We'll just have to be strategic about what that looks like. There are a couple commissions and programs who are just flat out not happy with this, and I completely understand that. And so they are working on different ideas about how to make this work for them. So does that mean, and I'm just throwing things out there just so we can be, thought partners moving forward. Does that mean applying or awarding less than full half-time slots and then converting them up when we are awarding or placing members? Does that mean awarding 2 projects on the prime? So you have a summer program or a different geography, and then you have a main program or project? I don't know. I have no idea what this looks like. But I wanted to pause real quick to get thoughts or questions, especially on this one.
Sam, I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So are we able to, for example, if we are to bring on 30 members, could we do 15 members from September through February and then another 15 for the second half of the year?
No. So unfortunately, so if you look in eGrants, and this is like an eGrants mechanical thing, you can set and you can move the enrollment period, but once you have members enrolled within that enrollment period, you can't change it. So you can't move it, and you can only have one within a program year.
And did they share with you all justification of why they chose to do this? Because obviously from a recruiting standpoint,
Right.
But did they share it all?
So my only guess, they have not shared because we don't have office hours yet or guidance, like specific guidance, is that the only thing I can think, well, I'm sure there's more, but when I first came on board in this position I'm in right now, we had programs that were enrolling full-time members like in May or June. And so people are enrolling the wrong slot types during the wrong types of the year. And then that creates like this domino effect of, do they need an NCE, right? Do they need to extend the program year, or members are not finishing their terms, or they're giving bad reasons for CPC exits? So it has like this domino effect if you're enrolling the wrong type of slot type in the wrong type of the year. That's one example, but no, we haven't received anything besides that. You see someone else's hand?
Hey everybody, it's Audia. Good morning,
Hey,
Sam.
good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to share that with the Dam River year, we experienced that for 2025 with our recruitment closing in the beginning. So for our program, what worked for us, it was a gift and a curse. So I'll go with the curse first. So with the curse, we had to rally with recruitment, by a certain time. So a lot of our tutors, we talked to them about serving over summer with the summer camps. So that way they'll serve during the school term, and then they will complete our summer camps. Unfortunately, it knocked us out of our candidate pool for summer because we look forward to having some of the returning members. But once recruitment closed, we could use that other time to do other projects. So we know that our recruitment window closed by a certain date. We can't recruit or fill any more slots for the service year, but that gives us time now during the spring where we could focus on other major projects and prepare for the upcoming service year. So it was kind of a win-win at the end. Struggled a little bit in the beginning, but having the opening and closing of recruitment, it kind of worked for us this time. So we'll see what it looks like for 2026.
That excellent point, Audia. I think that this is really a unique opportunity. I mean, if it's going to happen, we don't know necessarily like what the guidance will be, but like if it's going to happen, we need to be strategic about when we recruit, right? And so I think that's something that we had worked on with you and United Way was potentially recruiting members for summer service like up front and then suspending them and then activating them in the summer. So there are like technical workarounds to this, but it is difficult, and you have to be intentional and strategic about like when you're recruiting. And I think that's kind of the like we've always been under the impression we can just do rolling recruitment throughout the year and then continuously like change our slot types, right? But that creates a burden on the commission as well when we are constantly changing our slot types or what am I trying to say? What's the word I'm trying to use?
Slot conversions.
Slot conversions, thank you. When we're doing consistent slot conversions throughout the year, that has so many other implications as well. So this is an interesting policy. Joy, did you have something to say?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Samantha. Just trying to wrap my mind around this a little bit. If we, like for us, we recruit, the majority, all of our members start in September. And, we go the whole year, and not all of them are full-time, but all of them go the whole year. So for us, it would impact us pretty greatly. So if I understand correctly, if the members start not even members, volunteers start them in September and it ends in February, and then we don't get any more until the next recruitment period. If they are more than half-time, let me ask that. Is that correct?
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that you recruit your members a lot different slot types in September, but they serve for the whole year. So actually,
Yes.
the enrollment period would not really affect your program necessarily unless you had members who left and then you wanted to refill those positions and it's outside of the enrollment period. So the enrollment period and their term of service are different things. So they can serve the whole year. You
Oh.
just can't enroll them past a certain date.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was over here panicking. I mean, I don't even smoke, but I was going to light a cigarette. Okay, thank you.
Smoke them if you got them, right? But no, yeah, you're and I think that's like the typical model, right? Like you want to recruit your members. A lot of people do full-time or three-quarter time in September or the fall, and then they serve the whole year. But there are different program models on here, and so there's not one size fits all. But let me move on for time's sake. Great question, all of you. So thank you. Oh, great. Okay. That's helpful to know that I know what I'm talking about, but I'm not necessarily explaining it correctly. So I apologize. And this is for fixed grants. Currently fixed awards, we have two of them, can draw down their funds, their cost per MSY as they recruit and retain members. But there's a new policy or renovation that AmeriCorps is coming out with that they can draw down up to 50% of their total funds starting at the beginning of the budget period. And then if they retain and enroll members during the year, they can draw down certain other percentages. We don't know like what that really means or what that looks like. There's a whole bunch of different scenarios that if you don't retain or recruit your members, do you have to give the money back? I'm not sure if Virginia has to follow the new renovation or if we would be, we have procurement we have to answer to. We have DSS as a legal applicant. So that one is still to be determined what that looks like. But it's a new renovation, so I want to talk about it. I think that's it. I'm going to pass it on to the team to talk about happier things.
Great. Thank you, Samantha. So happier thing number one, I guess, I just wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who came out for National Service Day at the Capitol back in February. All the programs, all of you who were able to bring members. I think we've heard, and Sasha and Aaron have been sharing feedback that it seems like members really enjoyed it, that you all really enjoyed the experience. But from our end, it wouldn't have been possible without you all really getting on board with the idea of doing that kind of event, doing that together. And so really thank you to everything you all did. Samantha, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll just give a quick summary. So for those of you who were there and those of you who weren't, we had around 70 members, or I guess volunteers now. Here we go, the big change of all of our language begins. Program staff, alumni, and other supporters, including some of our board members that we have at the Governor's Advisory Board on Volunteerism and Community Service and the Virginia Service Foundation Board, who got together. We had the Library of Virginia as kind of our home base for the day. We did some morning remarks. We were fortunate to have Councilwoman Robertson from the city of Richmond come and join us and speak to the members and the folks who were there as well. Meanwhile, AmeriCorps received an introduction on the floor of both the House and the Senate. So really important there just to get visibility for the program in front of decision makers. A handful of us, mostly program staff, went and did some visits to legislative offices. For some of us, those of you who scheduled direct meetings, thank you for doing those. And the rest of us were able to walk around and hand out flyers specific to districts as well. Again, all about awareness. The AmeriCorps volunteers who were there participated in some reflection and professional development activities led by our program officers and went on a tour of the state capitol, which I've heard they found very interesting and informative. And then to cap the day off, something else that I did with a few of our board members was a presentation to the Senate Page program. For those of you who aren't familiar with them, they are middle schoolers who assist during the General Assembly in a variety of ways to keep the legislature moving. And so building their awareness of AmeriCorps is kind of an interesting audience to get in front of as well. So thank you again to everyone who is there. And I think my last ask that I wanted to pass along, for those of you who attended, if you could take a few minutes after this meeting while your memory is hopefully still fresh to fill out this feedback form on the event, that would be very helpful as we think about planning this for next year. So fill that out, send me your thoughts. Appreciate it either way. And I did also want to just make sure to put the Flickr link in here in case you missed it in our follow-up email so that you have the photos from the events for your own purposes. All right, that's all for that. You can go on to the next slide. So we are kind of getting into a fresh year here, and I wanted to go over a few training updates and opportunities. You can go to the next slide. The first of these, we've been doing our peak volunteer engagement webinars, which touch on the SERVE framework. I know several of you have attended these starting back in October. We have 2 more webinars in this series. The first of which is our webinar on the core strategy, which is specific to AmeriCorps. That will be this week, this Thursday, tomorrow, I guess, March 12th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. We're going to be joined by speakers from Service Year Alliance, the Virginia Housing Alliance, and the SPAN Center, kind of representing a mix of national AmeriCorps, AmeriCorps Vista, and AmeriCorps Seniors. We're going to look at the VCEI data related to AmeriCorps and just hear other insights from national service practitioners. I would highly encourage all of you who are able to join for this. It is going to be, I think, a very good opportunity to talk in the broader sense about AmeriCorps and to learn from what some other practitioners are doing. The last webinar in this series will take place on April 7th. This is going to focus on the volunteer experience, so we'll share our usual set of data, but we're also looking to have this be a continuing conversation specifically around youth volunteering, which I know would be of interest to many of you as you're working with AmeriCorps and for a number of our other partners who are working in schools and with younger age groups too. You can go to the next slide. This spring, we are also going to pick back up our subject matter expert calls. If you all remember from the fall, we had scheduled these out pretty much every month. This is something that historically has been part of the planning grant process, and this year we opened it up for everyone. Now, we did not have these the last few months, as this is usually the window when people are working on applications, and so we don't have these scheduled. The content will shift a little bit from less about the program design and more towards the actual running of an AmeriCorps program. This goes over staffing and compliance will be our call at the end of March. In April, we'll look at member files, volunteer files. Again, have to update all the language. And then in June, we have a call specifically on national service criminal history checks. These are required for our planning grants who will be moving towards operational programming, and they are optional for operational grants. So I will send a Teams invite for all of these calls that you all will receive. Just know that for the planning grantees, please do plan on coming to these and bringing any questions that you have. And for the operational programs, you are more than welcome to join, especially staff who are newer to AmeriCorps programs. This is a good time to just refresh your knowledge and ask questions, but these are open to anyone. I did want to make a note, all of the previous training slides and recordings are on Basecamp. So if you have questions related to anything, Basecamp is a resource. Anything that Serve Virginia has given to you, you are able to find on Basecamp in the files that we have on there. So I do encourage you to go looking there whenever you have questions. You can go to the next slide. And then last, kind of wrapping up our AmeriCorps specific training, I did want to highlight for everyone, now that we are in spring, when our summer training dates, our annual summer training dates are, so that you can start keeping an eye and marking these on your calendars, knowing that Serve Virginia will send out invitations closer to the dates as well. Our July training and technical assistance calls are virtual. These are scheduled for July 14th to 16th. We did half days last year in the morning. That seems to work pretty well content-wise and focus-wise for everyone. So we'll likely keep that format again. And during these calls, for those of you who are less familiar with it, the Serve Virginia team puts together a series of sessions on most of the technical topics that we know are in high demand and that we've been getting questions about. And then the other training in August is our annual AmeriCorps convening. This takes place in person in Richmond. We have the dates August 11th and 12th set out for this, and we'll provide more information on the exact location. We'll likely look to do this at Maymont again, but we'll send more details around that to everyone once we've begun that planning on our end. And I think that gets us through training and to the summit. All right, Summit 2026. May 13th and 14th will be the virtual days of the summit. May 15th is our Social Impact Professionals Day, which will take place in person in Richmond. I've got another slide to go on that specifically. I did want to remind everyone that AmeriCorps members can use the promo code AmeriCorps and select an AmeriCorps member all access ticket for $10. This will get them access to all of the virtual content and allow them to register for that in-person day as well. We've got we have a wide range of content for the summit this year. I know both Joyce and Brandon, who have been on the planning committee, have seen some of the behind the scenes of this, but we really have a range from everything on volunteer management to some content specific to AmeriCorps, and a few workshops focused really heavily on civic engagement and community voice as well. So for anyone who is interested in those kinds of topics, there is a really, really great opportunity to listen in and learn about all of that at the summit this year. For AmeriCorps program staff and site supervisors, the promo code AC staff can be used for 50% off of your registration as well. So just keep those in mind. And if you want to go to the next slide, Social Impact Professionals Day, I wanted to start highlighting and sharing some more information with you all about as we're getting our plans more firmly together. We have this scheduled on May 15th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is free for AmeriCorps members. The promo code May15 free will apply a $50 discount to this add-on on the Eventbrite page so that they can register for free. This is where we'll be doing some specific Life After AmeriCorps workshops this year. Right now we're kind of finalizing what exactly that'll look like, but we are looking to hone in on resume writing, translating your service into a further career, and how to stay engaged as an active person in your community beyond AmeriCorps as well. We are also looking at some other ways to do general professional development during this event. Some of the ideas that have come up from our conversations have been having a professional photographer there to get headshots for members, maybe bringing together a small group of folks who can table and talk about different hiring options for members after their service. So those are in the works, and we'll continue to provide more information. Just want to make sure you all are aware and reminding you of this. As a last note, I just want to give a shout out to the Dan River Year folks for registering, I think, almost all of your members for the virtual days of the summit. Hopefully it's a good experience and they learn a lot, but we're very excited to have them joining us. Any questions? I think that's the end of my content. The final note I'll make, I don't think I have on the slides here because it's closed now, but for those of you and your members who applied for the Points of Light Scholarship, we've reviewed those on our end, and you can expect to hear from us next week with kind of the final details and the next steps regarding that for folks who have received the scholarship. So do keep an eye out for that. Know that that is coming out next week. I think that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you. Can I ask before we move on, if anyone was at Hill Day, if they could just talk about their experience? Maybe one person for time's sake. That was a really interesting yeah, Joy, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, and I'll make it short so someone else can speak too. I just had such a great time. It was wonderful to represent for Ed Futura and for the AmeriCorps program and to be there Serve Virginia. You're instrumental to the work that we do. And so I'm so grateful for that opportunity for inviting us. Had a really great chance to learn more about sort of what our officials do. And so thanks for that.
Yeah, I love Morning Hour. We were at Morning Hour together. It's just so interesting to watch. Like, these
It
are
really
people that we
was.
voted for, right? And they're representing us and just what they're doing on the floor. It's like a really weird behind the curtain sneak peek. Maybe one more person can talk about their experience. Who else was there?
I echo Joy's
Oh yeah,
sentiments.
Paul.
It was great, especially great just honoring our members, our volunteers. So thanks
Right.
to Team Serve Virginia for a great inaugural event. And yeah,
Did anyone have any meetings with legislator?
I just
You
put it
just
in
put
the
it in the
chat.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah, our team, we loved passing out all the paperwork, kind of going on a scavenger hunt and visiting all the offices. But then we had 3 different meetings and we were able to meet with a delegate from our district. He took the time to meet with us. So it was just really, it felt very accessible. And our team hadn't had experience with that. And it just made it feel like in the future we can go to them and talk to them and create relationships for the long haul. So it was just a really good push to get us in the building and to help us feel more familiar with the process. And yeah, it just all felt very approachable and like they really were there for us and were happy to talk to us. So it was a little bit surprising, but it was great. So we're very motivated after that event.
That's great. And they should be accessible, right? I think that was one of the
Right.
takeaways I
Yeah.
had gotten from Karen and Nancy is like they represent us. Katie, did they ask you any questions or was it mostly you guys telling them what you do or?
Yeah, we told them about AmeriCorps and also about our specific program. So it was just some of them we met with their assistants or other designees, but
Needs, yeah.
yeah. So we we did our best and it was great.
I'm sure it was great. That's fantastic. That's really
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, moving on to the AmeriCorps member survey and Sasha.
Good morning, everyone. So for folks who are new this year, we conduct the member survey every year. This typically goes out in May and is open for a month and a half, depending on how responses are going. We send it out to all the members who are enrolled in our Virginia programs in each program year. And it's an opportunity for us to collect feedback from members on their experience and collect some demographic information and different information that is useful to us in planning and thinking about kind of where we should be targeting our program development efforts. You can go to the next slide, Samantha. This is a really quick summary of many of the questions that are in the member survey. There are a few other questions in here related to things like demographics, a few AmeriCorps compliance items, some things about Serve Virginia, you know, if they were familiar with Serve Virginia before receiving the survey, if they want to be signed up for different newsletters, things like that. But this is really the bulk of the survey. Some of the questions are, how did you hear about AmeriCorps? Whether that's typically how they find job and volunteer opportunities, thinking about, you know, kind of what is helpful, what is the most helpful areas of outreach for us to focus on in recruitment, asking about training and orientation, asking about support by their supervisor and with other site staff, asking about, you know, just how well their service experience met their expectations, what are some ways service could have been improved, different incentives. So you can see that it covers a fairly wide range of topics. So again, we send this out every late spring, early summer, and then compile the data and put together a report that we share out with you all. So I wanted to bring this topic to the call and just pause here to see if anyone has thoughts, feedback on questions that you would like to see included in the member survey. I know that many of you conduct your own end of term surveys with members as well. So there might be data that you're already collecting, but I think this is a really great opportunity to, again, collect this statewide data, and also can be a good chance for you to look at, you know, the responses in your program compared to the whole cohort, thinking about, you know, where are the areas that your program is really shining versus, you know, maybe where are areas that you could be looking to improve and learn from other programs in the state. So that was a whole lot of information. I'm just going to pause here for everyone to, you know, look through these questions, and especially folks who have been with us for multiple years. I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on, again, questions we should be asking, or anything else that you would like to see us incorporating in this member survey.
Sasha, if I could just make a quick statement. We change the questions sometimes, right? We're trying to be more consistent so we can build, you know, evidence, right? And look at proof of concepts over the years. We typically, how did you hear about AmeriCorps? We get word of mouth as like the overwhelming response every year. And so we're able to incorporate that kind of stuff into like our recruitment and how we give guidance. Some of these questions, like, how well do your supervisor or your staff prepare you? Do you meet with your supervisor? Or yes, like a bit of compliance. Like we see like, oh, that their service did not meet their expectation, or they did not get a handbook, or they didn't have gear. It's like, then we do, like, it gives us cause for pause. But Craig, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. And Sasha, I think it's good. On the fifth question down, how often did you meet with your supervisor? I'd love to see that one expanded just as the one above it, or other site staff, because in our situation, principals are the site supervisor, but they're meeting more regularly with reading instructors and, you know, specialists on the team. So I think they would say, you know, maybe once a month, or, you know, for the supervisor, but it'd be interesting to hear if it was more with the other staff, because I think it would be.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point about kind of the language that we use. Do you have any thoughts on, like, is there a specific title that you use for kind of those more, you know, the staff that members are interacting with more often, or is it just kind of, do you think the general, you know, site staff language would be the best fit there?
Yeah, I think your other site staff is good.
Okay, fantastic. That's really great feedback. This is exactly why I like to bring this to you folks. Other thoughts or questions?
I was just also make a comment that a lot of the members interpret, to Craig's point, like the language differently, right? And so how often do you meet your supervisor? We will see, like, I never meet them, right? But it's like they don't necessarily know what we mean by that. So it'll be hard to capture everything, but that's why we come to you usually after and say, because we can identify who took the survey. When we give out the information after, what, Sasha, it's usually anonymous, right? Like if your program had 10 responses, we'll give you the data, but not necessarily who said it, because we don't, you know, want anything to happen. But it's a good point.
Yeah.
And it's a good point to
absolutely.
maybe say site supervisor instead of just supervisor, right? Because they
yeah.
have to have those two signatures. They'll think of a United Way person as their supervisor.
Well,
And
that's
also,
exactly right.
yeah, will we get notified when you send this so we can ping them to actually do it?
Craig, you have given me the perfect transition. Yes. So we pull a list from eGrants that gives us a list of members and the emails that they used for their AmeriCorps accounts. So we will send it out directly to members through that, but members don't necessarily know us. They don't interact directly with us a ton. So we really, really appreciate if you all can also share out the member survey with your members. I think that direct ask from program staff is often the best way for us to get engagement and responses in this. So yes, absolutely. When this is ready to go out, I will be sharing out a link and language with all of the program directors with an ask for you all to share it out with your members and encourage them to participate in the survey. So definitely keep an eye out for that coming at the end of April, early May period. And again, if anyone else has, you know, questions, anything you want to chat about on the member survey, you know how to reach me, and I'm always happy to discuss it more in depth.
All right, thank you, Sasha. And then we'll go to pass it to Max.
Good morning to the portfolio. A couple quick fiscal updates because we'll be talking a lot more about the budget and such for those who will be remaining on the continuations call. But I wanted to start by highlighting something from the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity that AmeriCorps released in January. Samantha, if you'll go to the next slide. So for those of you who will be new or recompete, so those applying to the upcoming RFA, AmeriCorps, the agency, is phasing out the reduced half-time and abbreviated time volunteer slots. So those who are applying to the RFA, those slots will not be available when you're developing your program or developing your budget. If you'll go to the next slide, Samantha. But these slots do remain available for those who will be under continuations. So again, they are phasing it out. So if you are a program who utilizes reduced halftime or abbreviated time, and you are a continuation program, that will remain available, but it's good to keep in mind because while it is available this year, in the years to come, it is getting phased out. So it will be something that you and your program team will want to think about and how to design your program, and of course, developing your budget based on the volunteer slot types that will be available in the future. We can go to the next slide. And just a reminder, the next quarter of periodic expense reports will be due on April the 10th. So that's January, February, and March. I have been checking over the PERs periodically. So spot checking January and February PERs for those who have submitted those. And I do recommend submitting on a rolling basis. While I do not move forward to processing and payment until after the deadline of April 10th, I do spot check and will oftentimes send back for revision if I catch something that needs a quick correction. I also think that it keeps your financial practices fresh in mind if you're submitting those reports shortly after the end of the month. Additionally, during this quarter, my plan is to do a few checks across the portfolio requesting additional support documentation to expense report line item expenditures. So this is something that AmeriCorps, the agency, could ask of any of you at any time. So it's something I want to do on a quarterly basis, is select a few random partners and a few random line items. This includes both the federal portion of your budget as well as your grantee share to show supporting documentation for the numbers that you are reporting on those expense reports. So this could be travel receipts, if it's in the travel line item, consultant invoices, payroll reports for staff, or the dispersal of the living allowance. So I just want you all to be aware. It'll only be 2 or 3 partners that I reach out to. And again, it'll just be one specific line item that I'll ask for support documentation for. And it'll just be I'll give you a deadline of probably about a week. And then I'll take a few days to review the documentation and either come back with a clean report or recommended changes. But that's all I have for this section.
Okay, we've reached the end of the call. Does anyone have anything to share, or best practice, or any questions from today's call, or a random question? And then we'll wrap it up.
I have a question. I guess I now have 2 questions. I thought I had one coming in, but there were some revelations in this call. So the one that I had coming in was I noticed we already started work on our renewal application, and I noticed that this year they're saying that they're going to give preference to faith-based organizations. So I was just, you might not have a good answer for this, but I was just curious, how concerned should non-faith-based organizations be this year, from your perspective about that new requirement or
so
preference?
that that is in the NOFO, right?
Right,
And
right.
so that's the federal agency's priorities, but Virginia has different priorities.
Gotcha.
And so if you're a continuation, because you guys are continuing into next year, right? You're just okay.
So
Yeah.
that was actually we can but finish this one and then
Oh,
we
okay,
can
okay.
have that.
So those priorities for the NOFO don't necessarily apply to continuations, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good to know. So my second question is just, I know that from at the beginning of the call, it sounds like no matter what, the deadline for submission has been extended from next Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And the question, so basically, if we're a continuation, that has still to be determined. But if it's a new, like a recompete, it's been pushed all the way back to April. Is that's accurate? Or
Yeah. So if you don't currently have a grant that's in the prime, in our current prime, our 25 prime. So if you don't have a grant number that starts with 25, then you'll be recompeting, and that RFA, the request for applications, the Virginia process, where you have to compete with other people who are also interested in AmeriCorps programs, will drop April 9th. But
okay,
for continuations, like if you're just continuing the grant in eGrants and you're updating like your budget and all the narrative stuff like comes over with you, that is probably going to be due the first week of April, to be
okay,
determined yet. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I guess I don't need to take up everybody's time on the call. I'll probably just follow up with you via email.
Oh,
I'm
for
a
sure.
little confused about where Edufutura falls because we're out of the 3-year, renewal window. So I
You
think,
guys are a continuation. You're a continuation. Yeah,
okay, cool.
All right. Any other questions? Good questions, though. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, of course.
Hey Smith, I have a similar question on the priorities. Uh, I know that the National NOFO switched from environmental stewardship to outdoor recreation and access, and I was wondering if I know none of the performance measures changed,
Right.
but I'm sure if that would impact how serve Virginia's priorities in that space in particular, because it feels like a different terminology that may have a bigger impact than expected.
Yeah, I hear you. I cannot remember if we changed that in our RFA. But I don't think that the priority has a lot of points attached to it, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't necessarily pull you in either direction. I think it's like 2 or 4 points.
Okay.
But we can check that.
Okay. Yeah, and we can talk offline too.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to stop this recording, give us 5 minutes, come back at 10:55, and we can start the continuations guidance. But certainly contact me or your program officer if you have any questions about this call, and I'll send a follow-up by the end of the week. Thank you all. Let's stop the recording.